here today with Christina Rodenbeck, and we are Astrology Talk Podcast. My website, sallykirkman.com, and Christina's website is oxfordastrologer.com. And we're here to talk to you about the month ahead, the astrology, and also other things, what's been, what's coming, all that. How are you, Christina?
I'm okay. I'm surviving this very, very dark winter. Not cold, just dark. By taking a lot of vitamin D and going out for walks.
Good. Have you been hibernating?
I have been, no, not really. I've been working a lot.
Yeah.
I've been working a lot, working really hard, and then I was in recovery. But yes, it was good. How was Christmas for you?
Yeah, it was nice. It wasn't really a sort of restful retreat Christmas. I mean, I know some people experience that for different reasons this year. I've been busy. I mean, I've been moving around. So I just feel like I've been on the go, and I'm feeling a bit exhausted actually as January gets underway. I mean, I don't have a lot of energy, but I'm by the sea now. I've got a lovely picture in the background of a beach actually, and houses on the beach. So that's nice. I'm glad to be somewhere new and just kind of ready to stop and settle a bit and catch up with myself. It's been busy. It's been busy. Moving around a lot, a bit too much.
Yeah, it's quite a tiring start to 2022, hasn't it? It's been quite tiring. It's the Venus retrograde has been quite intense.
Yeah. I do want to, but I have got a lovely Venus retrograde story actually, so maybe I should leap in with that. Because you probably, I don't know whether I was telling you, I had a major bust up with a friend on the Venus Pluto. When Venus turned retrograde, it turned retrograde on Pluto. I had a big upset with a friend, which was, you know, a friend of long standing, and there was a danger that it was going to damage the friendship actually. But on the Sun-Venus conjunction, the weekend of the Sun-Venus conjunction, we met up, and it was lovely. And we kind of reconnected, and everything's back and everything's fine. Upset's behind us, and we're moving forwards again as good friends. So I thought that was kind of a lovely showing of this Venus retrograde, and particularly the Sun-Venus conjunction, which was January the 9th. You know, that weekend was, I think it just felt lovely actually. Reconnecting.
On that weekend, I mean, you know, it's like a lot of things seem to people I was speaking with, a lot of things seem to suddenly slot into place that have been kind of floating around and being a bit weird. You know, offers coming in, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Things opening up, which had looked odd. A lot of stuff to do with money. Have you been following the decline of Bitcoin? That's been quite interesting during this Venus retrograde.
Yeah, it has. It's been going steadily down, hasn't it?
Yeah, since the beginning of January. Well, really since Venus went into Capricorn, really.
Okay.
And it went off really down since the beginning of January, and that's been quite interesting as well. Because we expect sort of Venus retrograde, you think something might happen with currencies.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see. I mean, as we're talking, we've still got quite a bit of the Venus retrograde to go, haven't we? It runs till January the 29th. So it'll be interesting to see what happens in the second half as kind of Venus reawakens and, you know, moves into morning star, whether that kind of, I don't know, brings a revival or not. Not.
Could well bring a revival, and maybe even stronger, because often that happens with you know, because we've talked about this before, about how when Venus goes into the underworld, she comes out stronger. It's not like she comes out weaker. She comes out as a queen, which is interesting. You know, it's good to think about that because we're still, when this podcast goes out, which is the 18th, we've still got another week to go of the Venus retrograde more. It finishes on the 29th. That's a kind of, I would say it's a slow strengthening. It's like a recuperation. It's like getting the vitamins, getting the sunshine in, ready to really roar ahead from the 29th of January, that Venus. And this is important for Taurus, and you know, we're moving straight into that, but it's important for Taurus, and it's important for Libra that to remember that your Venus is getting stronger, that you're in period of kind of recuperation now. But let's talk about Aquarius month before I leap into talking about the month ahead. About Aquarians, it's your month. Happy birthday, Aquarius.
Yeah, it is. I have lots of Aquarius friends, actually. They're great. I just enjoy them. They're quirky, and they're always sort of interesting to talk to. Although I have to say, as a Scorpio, I do like my one-to-ones. And one of the things that always annoys me about my Aquarius friends is I'll arrange to meet up one-to-one with them. And then suddenly they've invited about 4 or 5 more people. And it's, suddenly it's a gathering. And it's like, oh, I thought we were going to catch up. And here we are in a sort of group social get together. Yeah. Because I mean, and the Aquarians I know just have this diverse social group around them. I mean, that seems to be one of the key features of Aquarius.
Yeah, they like people. They're not haters usually. They're likers or interesteders, whatever that word is. They're curious about people in general, and they have the common touch as well. So quite often people like Aquarians as well. If they're grooving their sun really well, or their ascendant. It's a very likable sign. I'm thinking of Jennifer Aniston for some reason. She's Aquarian, is she not?
Oh, she is.
I think she's a kind of perfect Aquarian in that she is actually fabulously successful and glamorous, yet she somehow seems to represent every woman. She somehow manages to be, and she often plays those parts where she's like the ordinary girl parts. And I was thinking how opposite that is to sort of Leo types, who are always like, on a pedestal. She's not on a pedestal, Jennifer Aniston, yet fabulously successful.
Yeah, and her big show was Friends, which is, I mean, you couldn't get a more Aquarius title, could you?
And actually that whole Friends and the whole kind of relationship with Ross was actually kind of Aquarian. She goes off and she has the baby. I was always disappointed that they got back together.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Christina.
She was too good for him. I'm still cross about it now. Too good for Ross.
I do also, and there's, again, I don't know, this is across the board. I kind of, the Aquarians, when it comes to relationships, they fall into kind of 2 different camps for me. I know Aquarians, a very good Aquarius friend who met her husband, when she was at uni, and is still with him years and years later. But I know a lot of Aquarius friends kind of in their 50s and 60s who are still enjoyably single. They're still kind of having a great time, getting to know new people, but not committing, not settling down. And really, I think they're just thinking, well, I quite like this lifestyle and getting on with it. So I do find that quite interesting about them too.
I agree with you. I think that it's either single or you get these very long, stable relationships. It's, they're loyal. It's one of the very loyal signs. That's why you get these loyal friendships. If you have a friendship with an Aquarian, it can last a lifetime. And same with, love relationships. But I always think it's because they don't really, they won't do it unless it's excellent. They're not going to do a bad relationship. They want it to be excellent.
And I was going to say it's probably a little bit because it is a unique sign in that it's got 2 ruling planets, Saturn and Uranus. So the Saturn types maybe are more committed, like to do the long-term relationship, and then the Uranus types like freedom. They just like to sort of bob around a bit, meet different people, be unconventional as well, experimental, or free. Now,
if an Aquarian, I can think of some. I love Aquarians actually. I can think of one Aquarian who lives on the top of a hill on a mountaintop, which is as Aquarians should. That's a good place for them to live. And her boyfriend of about 35 years lives in the middle of a deep wood at the sort of bottom of the mountain. So they have separate houses. He's a Virgo, which is a very weird combination. Virgo, Aquarius works very well. But that's a perfect kind of Aquarian relationship, that you have this very long-term loyal relationship, but you live separate lives basically.
That seems perfect, doesn't it?
Yeah.
That seems perfect. So you still have your kind of independence in your own life by doing that. Yeah, they're interesting. Who else do we know? Ed Sheeran is Aquarius. I think he's very kind of, I love that. What about Ed Sheeran? I mean, he refused to conform musically. You know, he did his stuff, which people said, oh, it will never catch on, you know, standing there playing his guitar. They will, you know, it's not what people want now. So, but he refused to, he just did his thing. And look at him now. I mean, megastar. So I kind of think he's quite quirky and typical of Aquarius.
But also has the common touch.
He has the common touch, he does.
I mean, that's a real Aquarian thing, is for Aquarians in the arts, so to speak. You know, that having the common touch. Ellen DeGeneres is another one I always think of.
Yeah.
Aquarian, you know, and she also has not conformed. I always think her outfits are very Aquarian. She wears a lot of very kind of shiny suits, sort of silvery. She has that kind of silvery look, which is quite an Aquarian color, silver.
Yeah.
And the silvery hair. She's in trouble at the moment, isn't she, for having something? Let's skip over that.
No, I don't know. So we can skip over it. I've no idea, Christina. She has an Aquarius partner as well. They're a double Aquarius, Portia de Rossi. She's Aquarius too. So yeah, and we're moving into the age of Aquarius, aren't we? We all need to get down with Hair, the musical, and go hippie. Age of Aquarius, which started a long time ago, actually.
Oh, yeah, I don't believe in that stuff. You know, age of Aquarius. We are in an Aquarian period, though, I would say, in Aquarian era, because of that conjunction back in December 2020. We're in this 20 years is an Aquarian 20 years for sure. Whether it's the age of Aquarius is another whole nother question. Yeah, and what would that mean anyway? God. Aquarius is, you know, is a sign that's associated with sort of futurism, robots, you know, technology. The internet is an Aquarian thing. So what we're doing now is kind of Aquarian. We're kind of socially distanced. We're separate, but we're in the same room.
Yeah, it's. I think what's happened, you know, the effects of the pandemic is bringing the Aquarius era really to life, isn't it? Yeah. We're all connecting on Zoom and technology. You know, it isn't about human connection. You have to stay detached, disconnected. Well, you don't, but I mean, that's what we had to do. So yeah, I mean, it's kind of catapulting us into the Aquarius era, and more to come.
That's interesting, because like back to Aquarius being having this dual rulership, and the one side is this Saturnian side, and one is the Uranian side. These are really both quite sciencey planets associated with science, but one is like this electric spark of genius, which is Uranus, and the other one, Saturn, is about the scientific method is a Saturnian method, trial and error. You keep on adding layers of stuff. You know, you keep on moving on. And so that is part of the zeitgeist at the moment anyway, is this that duality, that the Uranus, we've had the Uranus Saturn square going on, which is two Aquarian planets, right? So I mean, I don't know if Aquarian's been having a particularly tough time in 2021. I wonder. And one of the other things about that, one more thing to say, is this idea that it's one of the social signs. Aquarians in general quite like people, but it can also be a sign that is somehow kind of disconnected socially. And that's a really odd thing, isn't it? It's very socially connected, likes groups, but when you get to the one-to-one, sometimes quite disassociated.
Yeah, I agree. And quite disconnected, cut off. And often with Aquarius, there can be a theme of an outsider, not, you know, and I mean, I have quite strong Aquarius in my chart. You need to find where you fit in. And quite often you feel like you're not part of the group with Aquarius. And it's, you know, you have to sort of find your tribe in a way. But yeah, it's kind of it's weird in that way, isn't it?
It's very, I mean, these are two quite different things. This idea of a sign that's actually very social, but then, and then not antisocial, but kind of doesn't fit in. Yeah, I have Aquarius in my chart too. I've got Venus in Aquarius.
It's the star sign, I think, that's linked to astrology as well, very much. So, I think you get a lot of astrologers with Aquarius strong in their chart.
Yeah, I think so too. One of the signs. Yeah, I agree. Venus and Aquarius, I always think, because I love astrology, I heart astrology. Yes. Should we talk about the month ahead now? We could go on talking about Aquarius a lot, actually. It's such an interesting sign.
Yeah, one more thing I wanted to say. I was thinking, what did I want to say about it? Also, fixed air. So that kind of, when we were talking about also fitting in, not fitting in, there's a real dogmatic side to.
Oh yeah.
And they like to be right very often. So there can be this, they fall out with people sometimes because of what, their fixed opinions. As well. So I think that can be a struggle they work with sometimes too. But yeah, let's go into
can I just agree with you there? I'm allowed to agree with you and say, and sometimes quite funny ideas, which can sometimes be really futuristic and great, and actually they're ahead, but sometimes are just weird, wrong,
Yeah.
And that's also this split in
Yeah, and some of those ideas work, don't they? But often further down the line, they're the ones who often come up with the inventions that actually are brilliant, sort of, further down the line too. So very interesting star sign. And we're going to have an interesting month ahead.
Yeah, I mean, well, first of all, we should just mention, don't forget Saturn is still in Aquarius. The sun is in Aquarius. So the sun is, interestingly enough, kind of considered to be quite weak in Aquarius, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
And Saturn, of course, is, very, very strong in Aquarius. And that's one of the feelings of the month ahead. Weak sun, strong Saturn. Just as a general thought. And the other general thought is like that Venus, all those retrogrades. Oh my God, goodness.
Yeah. And I think, when we talk about the new moon, that's the Saturn Uranus is so pulled into that new moon. But I think it's important to, even though we're moving into Aquarius month, Capricorn is so strong, isn't it, as we move into this month? Venus is retrograde there still and turns direct on the 29th. Mars moves into Capricorn on the 24th. I think, and Mercury retrogrades back into Capricorn on the 26th. So there's this real intensity still on Capricorn.
And Pluto's still there.
Pluto's still there. And I think this is going to continue actually throughout the whole of this month. There's real intensity there.
It goes up till March. Those three planets are all there until March, which is quite unusual to have those three in the sign, which is not the sign of the sun, for that length, all together, working together, going in the same direction.
Venus, Mars, and Pluto.
Yeah, Mercury, Mars, and Venus will all be in Capricorn. Once Mercury gets back in.
Yeah. And also we've got, I think, another really important theme is the Pluto. Because the Mercury, it turns direct, doesn't it, at 24 Capricorn. So once again, like when Venus turned retrograde in December, it pulled in Pluto. There's two Mercury-Pluto conjunctions, 29th of Jan and 11th of February. So Pluto is again really getting pulled into the inner planets as they move through Capricorn, which I'm hoping is kind of purging. I think it's really sort of, I think we've had, this is, we're going back almost 2 years, aren't we, to the start of the pandemic with the Saturn-Pluto conjunction in Capricorn. So I'm just wondering if things are really purging or completing in some way or getting excavated with all that's going on with Pluto.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a chance to go back. For everybody, this retrograde is about this partly as well. Because it's all of these, Venus makes 3 hits with Pluto. We've had 2, have we, I think?
Yeah, we've had 2 already.
And we're going to have a third one. Is that on the 4th of February? Anyway, we're going to have a third.
It's actually in March, so it's not kind of in this month, but it's right at the end of when Venus is in Capricorn, so it'll be in March. But yeah, agreed, 3 hits of Venus, definitely.
3 hits of Venus, 3 hits of Mercury, and then there's going to be a hit from Mars.
Yeah.
So I agree. I think there's a lot of conversations about what's happened. I think there's going to be a lot of conversations about frankly, the death toll. This is to do with Pluto being in Capricorn, that we're in this country, we're up to 150,000. I think that happened just quite recently. And also about people, I think that we should be allowed to mourn what's happened in the last few years and actually consider it.
Yeah. And also, I think that's kind of on the collective level, but look at it also where it falls in your horoscope as well, and what needs to happen, you know, for each kind of star sign, what needs to be sort of purged or excavated. So very personal for Capricorn.
Yeah, for a lot of people, because these are personal planets. I'm not talking just collective mourning, actually. I'm talking about personal stuff.
Yeah.
What's changed over the last few years, what you've lost. Because, you know, it's not just about people, but it's maybe about jobs and ways of life and things like that. Because it's, you know, by acknowledging what's gone, then you can move forward, right?
Yeah. And maybe getting some kind of sense of reality about it. Some things aren't coming back.
Yes.
You know, what's not coming back. So it's interesting, again, in a way, as we're still slowly moving into a new year, there is this kind of theme of endings or getting real, or, you know, needing to deal with some dark stuff actually and put it to one side so you can let go of it and move on.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think that that's one of the themes of the, you know, January has been, we can't just leap into a new year, that we have to allow these endings to happen. I do think that things will be feeling, you know, accelerating from probably the beginning of when we put this podcast out. Things will start falling into place, partly because Jupiter is moving so fast now. It's moving very, very quickly, and it's beginning to pull, despite the retrogrades, it's beginning to pull everybody along.
Yeah.
And with Mars coming into Capricorn, Mars is actually clear, you know, so we have the period of mourning, we think about stuff. January ends, maybe a few loose ends with Mercury also going retrograde. Then Mercury goes direct on is that the 4th?
Yeah, it's on the 4th.
And then Mars is coming in saying, right, let's sort this out. Let's get this done. Let's now we can move ahead.
Yeah, and I agree. And I think Mars really will speed things up. It also, interestingly, on that day that Mercury turns direct, there's a Mars-Jupiter sextile too. So, you know, Mars is really kind of triggering the Jupiter. And again, that fast Jupiter, there's a real sense of feeling free, or this kind of ability to move, you know, get things moving quickly, make some quick, speedy decisions, maybe, you know, wherever this is falling in your chart.
So we should be more specific, I guess, and talk about that. Let's talk about this. I want to talk about the new moon on the 1st of February.
Okay.
Or do you want to talk about that first week, in the last week of January before then? Because the last week of January is pretty interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, I think I don't mind. She says in a really indecisive way. I don't mind. What do you?
I was just going to say, as we're moving into that last week of January, you know, the sun makes a conjunction with Mercury on the 23rd of January. Then on the 24th, Mars moves in to Capricorn. And then on the 26th, Mercury moves in, which you've said. And then Mercury makes all those connections to Pluto. So that first week of that last week of January is pretty intense in terms of conversations, I think. Mercury seems to be very accurate. And there may be some really bitter truths that come out in that last week of January, because that is the Mercury retrograde conjunction with Pluto, is finding out some stuff that's been hidden. And good for finding lost objects, of course, depending on where it falls in your chart.
Yeah,
Um,
it is.
but not so good if you want to conceal secrets.
No, I mean, it's bringing what's hidden to the surface, isn't it? It's dealing with what's hidden.
And it's like finding out the hidden thing is important for Venus to go direct, Venus going direct. Because those happen like pretty much on the same, they are on the same day. The Mercury Pluto conjunction and the Venus direct.
Yeah, which is really interesting astrology, isn't it?
Wow.
You know,
I'm interested in the Ghislaine Maxwell. I'm revolted by it, but it's interesting how the Ghislaine Maxwell trial has been very bound up with the Venus retrograde and with the Venus Pluto thing. She's a Capricorn, isn't she? I think we talked about it last time. There may be more to come out about that around that point.
It's actually, I'm finding it kind of, all what's happening in Capricorn, it's quite complex to talk about what that means for each of the star signs. Do you know what I mean? Because there's so many different components. It's like, for example, if we're talking about Aries, you've got Mars moving into your career sector, but Venus shifts direction. So it's not just about you and your career, it's also about what's happening with other people, maybe what's happening with your partner, or kind of, I don't know, female boss. It's also about what conversations are going on. It's kind of like a real potpourri, or a real, it's not, you can't just get on and do one thing with it. It's kind of, you've got to take other people into account. You've got to have these multiple conversations. It feels quite confusing in a way. That's how I'm ending up feeling with it.
And ditto for Cancer, if you're Cancer Sun or Cancer Rise, it's like the one thing I would say out of all this is, if you can wait until the 4th of February, then hopefully you'll have all the information, because you also may be getting different stories about the same thing.
Yeah.
Or maybe also, because there's so many retrogrades in one part of the sky, you may be getting second or third or fourth chances at something. So you might have like an embarrassment of choice about something, like suddenly you have 15 suitors and you don't really know which one to choose. Or you're looking at 4 properties and you don't know which one. It's the same, there's too much choice.
Yeah, and that would be key, particularly for Libra, actually, because that's Capricorn's, your 4th house. Also, who's the 8th house? That's Gemini. I mean, that's often to do with kind of property deals as well. Yeah. So yeah, the Venus turning direct it's the first turning point, but there's also going to be a new moon on the 1st and Mercury turning direct on the 4th. So there's these different turning points. So I think you really have to wait until, if you've got big decisions to make, wait until the 4th.
I think one of the things that's really interesting about this is this is real nitty gritty stuff. This is in Capricorn, so this is that something's going to turn out to be illusory. It's just that the real truth is going to come out about a certain situation, or people may reveal their true characters as well. You may think that you're, I don't know, negotiating with a really nice person. This is particularly addressed to, say, Cancers. You're negotiating with, they're not lovely. It's going to turn out, they will, basically the gloves come off, I think, as well with this. So be prepared. I'm just thinking about, anybody who's like has a, I'm just thinking, who will this be in the 9th house for? I mean, that's also tricky.
That's Taurus.
Taurus, it may turn out that some of the people, who you say, if you're a Taurus and you're in a court case or something, prepare for that to get really confusing, and for different, for different people to be advocating in surprising ways, or if you're involved in, you may find yourself involved in a situation where a multifaceted dispute, I think, for certain people. Taurus, Scorpio as well.
With lots of different layers to it, actually. Quite hard to navigate your way forwards with it.
Scorpio has to listen to a lot of people's different stories.
We really?
You start listening to those different stories.
Okay. Lots of other people's opinions, maybe.
exactly.
Advice. Okay. All right. I'll try and do that, Christine, I promise.
No, I mean, you have to listen, but ignore half of it.
Oh, okay.
You're going to be given a lot of advice.
Oh, right. Okay.
It may not be actually that good.
And then I need to be Mars and cut through.
Exactly. So
Okay.
you need to stick with the Mars.
Okay. That helps. Thank you.
Yeah. No, I'm not saying take other people's advice. I'm saying they are confused too. And I'm saying the same to Taurians. The people who appear to be giving you this great advice, they may not know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
So that's why it's important to wait till the 4th.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's real kind of, it's sort of a jumble of, this ping, 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 isn't it? With these planets all almost ganging up in Capricorn, actually. They're ganging up and getting a lot of energy there.
Not really. And also they're not completely coordinating with each other a lot of the time.
No.
Off over there.
Yeah.
Crisis comes in. I mean, they're all scattered through Capricorn. It's not, and then we have this weird new moon with the conjunction, which makes a conjunction with Saturn.
And square Uranus.
Yay!
The new moon in Aquarius really, I mean, it just cracks on with the Saturn-Uranus square. It brings it to life in a way, doesn't it? So, yeah, I mean, that could be, for Aquarius, that's kind of like who, you want to do your thing. This is where Aquarians could get very kind of rigid about what they want to do or what they believe. But there's going to be some opposition from Uranus. So for Aquarius, that could be someone from your past, or it could be someone in the family. Again, it feels a bit like an argument going on this new moon with the square to the Saturn-Uranus.
Well, I mean, the exact Saturn-Uranus was actually on Christmas Day. So if anybody had any arguments on Christmas Day, they may be resurfacing with that new moon.
They may, but there may also, because it's a new moon, there may be a chance to, go back and start over, to turn a fresh page. That could be a good way of looking at it, couldn't it? So if you fell out with someone over Christmas when there was the Saturn-Uranus square, it's kind of, can you go back in a way that's helpful, maybe, or see things from a different perspective with the Saturn-Uranus?
Yeah. It's certainly there's something, it's interesting because it's translating the light from Uranus to Saturn, isn't it? So because it's at 12, it's in between, the new moon is actually in between the two. So again, I mean, I think it'll be interesting to see what happens in the collective with regards to restrictions and, A restriction, B scientific breakthroughs, which is another possibility. There may be some new piece of science that comes in.
Yeah, I also think it's quite a tricky new moon, this one for Leo, I want to say, because your planet is the sun, your planetary body is the sun, and it is quite weak in Aquarius. It's it's about another person. Saturn's strong, so who are you up against? Uranus is in your career sector. So it may be that you have to, if you're up against, I don't know, a boss you don't like or a competitor, you might need to take a backward step. You might decide to kind of break free from a situation that's restricting you. And it could be something that, a real sort of a breakdown to breakthrough moment as well. I think it could be quite a tricky new moon for Leo because of that, particularly if anything's been going on in those key areas of your life. This could be the sort of key that switches it, that makes it okay. I'm going to be moving on now. We've got to do it differently. Yeah,
and it's tricky, and it's interestingly enough for Taurus as well. Actually, because it's all squaring you. It's making a tough aspect to Taurus. The new moon. I mean, it is in your career sector, mind you. So it's a possibility of a new chapter beginning.
Yeah.
And it's also, I mean, it could be tricky for Taurus, but on the other hand, it could be an opportunity to be reborn, to come out of your, if you've been in some kind of cocoon, to be reborn as a butterfly, my dear Taurus, and spread your wings. There's something about it that seems like it might be some kind of break for freedom, because the other thing that's happening with that Saturn Uranus is that they are separating now. after having been stuck together in this horrible square off and on through 2021. The last hit was at Christmas, and this is just like an echo of that square. Be echoed again and again through 2022, mind you, so it's not gone, but they are separating.
And also they've been kind of in June and December, they've been stuck at this sort of 11-12 degrees. Actually, it's been at a similar point in the zodiac. So if you've got any planets, 11-12 degrees of the fixed star signs, Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, Aquarius, you might really have felt under pressure. And this new moon, as you say, is a chance to kind of break free or reinvent yourself in some way, which might also fit in with all that's happening with this Capricorn stuff. It's certain things are coming to an end. So, this new moon could be the time you get out of a difficult situation or a tricky situation. You find a way to extricate yourself from something so you can move on and be free.
Yeah, and I actually think, looking at the Taurus, you might get some help there from that Capricorn, from a teacher or a mentor or someone like that, or university, or some kind of institution or whatever. You might, get, it's like I almost want to say getting out of jail free card almost, that new moon for Taurus particularly.
Yeah.
It's I think it's also, all the fixed signs, it's interesting, but maybe especially for Scorpio as well, because there's Uranus in the 7th, this new moon, which is getting the square from Saturn at home, and it may be liberating again, or that you're going to meet, that finally you're able to meet something, something changes in your relationships after this new moon. And actually, I'm not sure it can before the new moon. It opens a door. Yeah.
No, it feels really important, the new moon.
Yeah,
I also kind of like that as we move into 2022, these new moons are happening. They happen right at the beginning of the month. So it's kind of like each new month, there's the new page in the diary, right? I'm on a new page. Okay, what am I going to do differently? What am I going to start? Where am I going to kind of shut the door in the last month and move ahead? So there's an ability to set these new intentions. For Sagittarius as well, it's your 3rd house. So very much this is about how you communicate, what you say, and what are you trying to extricate yourself from or get out of. I mean, for Sagittarius, Taurus, Uranus in Taurus is your work and health sector. So it might be linked to do something with that. It's time to speak up so you can break free.
Yeah, I'm actually also wondering about, for Virgos, it's quite interesting too. There's a new moon. In fact, the whole month is interesting for Virgo, because there's so much energy in Capricorn, which is a wonderful part of the sky to have a lot of energy, but also kind of crazy, because it's the part of the sky that's to do with, love, relationships, creativity, children, all kinds of, all good things, essentially. You've got a lot of energy in the all good thing. It's the house that's called, it's a fortunate house, the house of pleasure. And then you have this interesting new moon, which is triggering a few things, but that's all. The new moon is in the house of work and duty. And I'm wondering if actually there's some kind of duty that calls you back after having, that Virgos are quite torn between wanting to have this pleasure and having a lot of stuff going on in one part of their lives, which is not to do with work, but then being called back to duty by this new moon. It's like a bit of a back to school new moon for Virgos on the 1st of February, I think.
Yeah, and there's Mercury turns direct, doesn't it, in Capricorn on the 4th. So you may be dragged back into doing something. When does Mercury go back into Aquarius? It's on the 14th of February. So it may take, these new beginnings may take you a while to really adjust your way of thinking or get your head around something or shift your attitude. And it's only mid-February when you're okay, I'm going to do it, I'm ready, because Mercury then is back in Aquarius. So it feels like there's a lot of toing and froing this month. That's the kind of shifting, you know, pushing, checking things out, pushing at doors. Can that one open or not? It's quite sort of.
4th of February is a really big day. I mean,
yeah,
Mercury goes direct, Mars sextiles Jupiter, moon makes a conjunction to Saturn.
Yeah.
You know, all of it, which are all kind of very different kinds of energy, aren't they?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, Mercury going direct, at least that's kind of a release. And Mars making this, actually, I quite like that.
I like that. And I think Mars is really helping. I think, you know, again, when you've got Mars strong, it is this just do it energy. And it sextiles Jupiter on the 4th, and then it trines Uranus on the 8th. And then we get this first big major planetary aspect between Jupiter in Pisces and Uranus in Taurus on the 18th, which is actually probably we need to talk about next month, don't we? If it's on the, oh no, well, we can talk about it this month.
Are we allowed to speak? Are we allowed to speak?
Yes, because the sun's still in Aquarius on that date, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
So
but I think we've been, you know, there's this weirdness going on, but Mars is cutting through in a good way, which is helpful. You know, look to your Aries and Scorpio friends to be helpful with this. And I like that sextile between Mars and Jupiter, particularly on the 4th of February. It's like, something turns, Mercury turns direct, Mars comes in, the sun makes a conjunction with Saturn, which is actually kind of heavy, but also kind of, okay, practical, let's get things done. We actually know the truth now. We can see the truth, and we know how to start stepping forward, which means that all of this previous, you know, mishmash that's going on before is really about finding the information, finding stuff out, interviewing people, trying to sort of repair relationships that haven't, you know, that are broken. All of that's going on before, and then after the 4th, boom, off we go in quite a interesting and exciting direction.
Yeah. And that's, you know, I often think of Mars Uranus when they get together, which is on the 8th. I often think of that, it's like the rebel with a cause, whereas, you know, it's not the rebel without a cause. It's like, you know what you're doing and where you're going. You've got a reason to be doing what you're doing. Actually, James Dean was also Aquarius, by the way, rebel without a cause. But Mars Uranus is the rebel with a cause. So it's really strong, I think, the Mars Jupiter and the Mars Uranus, particularly for Aries, Scorpio, and also Capricorn, actually, because Mars is in your star sign. It's a real time to push things through.
I also like the Venus-Mars conjunction on the 16th of February.
Agreed.
That's always nice. You know, it's the lovers uniting.
Yep.
Working together. They're both, you know, in direct motion. It's sexy. It's you don't think it's sexy?
Well, I was going to say it's in Capricorn, so it's like sexy with a bit of a contract or sort of going on, or, you know, it's kind of, it is sexy, agreed, particularly, you know, but there's something, do you know what I mean? It's a little, it's got an edge to it in Capricorn.
Yeah, it's earthy in Capricorn.
It's earthy, okay.
Yeah, sexy with, but status conscious. But I also think this new moon, the full moon, is quite interesting on that day.
Yeah.
Because it's making an exact square to the nodes, which by now have moved into Taurus and Scorpio. God, there's so much to talk about this month, isn't there?
Yeah, there is actually.
Because the nodes moving into Taurus and Scorpio is really important. And then this full moon really kind of brings that into some kind of focus, I think. And they're already at the start of the month. Yeah, they're around 28 for most of the, you know, at the start of the month they're at 28, which means they're, you know, that Pluto is sort of aspecting them as well. So, you know, they're bringing, so Pluto, the nodes, and the full moon are all kind of aspecting each other.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that sometimes when you get that square to the nodes, it's a real turning point of some kind.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
so it's not a bad day to do something that's a turning point,
Yeah.
especially for Leo and Aquarius.
Yeah, and I know, and how fantastic that that full moon for Leo after the new moon, when they might feel more under pressure at the beginning of the month or feel like other people have got the upper hand. I think that full moon for Leo is a real turning point. It's kind of suddenly you're back center stage, suddenly you know what to do to sort things out, actually, what move to make.
Yeah.
So, and use the full moon. I mean, full moons are great for ritual. They're great for really stopping and listening, getting back in touch with your intuition, your inner knowingness. I mean, if you felt kind of a bit discombobulated or confused, which I think this month's astrology is a little bit like that, actually. I think that full moon is a time to stop, reorient your compass, and then make your move. For Leo, it's gorgeous, I think, actually, that full moon. It's a really powerful, passionate full moon, time to kind of, make a stand.
I like it. I mean, I actually like it for Aquarius. I like it for Taurus. I think it's exciting. I like it when a full moon, it's it's just there out on its own in Leo,
Yeah.
With everything else is on the other side of the sky.
Yeah.
Pretty much. And there's this glorious full moon in Leo saying, look at me. Emotions are important, emotions are king or queen.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful full moon. And at the same time, it's getting this, it's like a turn of the wheel of fortune. Give the wheel of fortune a spin.
Yeah.
True for all of the fire signs, really. It's kind of nice.
Yeah, I mean, Leo is such a creative sign, isn't it? From the fire signs, it's it is about kind of taking some leap of faith, which I think is also, for me, the theme of the Jupiter Pisces sextile Uranus. We're a couple of days later. I mean, it just really completes the astrology of this month. But those two planets together are often about having a vision, taking a risk. They're entrepreneurial planets. It's about let's go for it. So,
this is when Pisces, I mean, we should mention Pisces because we haven't really. Pisces, Jupiter's in your sign now, right?
Yeah.
Despite all the kind of wobbliness around you in the next month, and the fact that things are coming and going, it's hard to, you have got luck behind you and power, and it's moving really fast. And then when it makes this sextile on the 16th, and then it's going to go into your birthday month, this is a time to be really taking some risks.
Agreed. And I like it too. I think it's nice for Gemini.
Yeah, absolutely.
Look out for the person who can kind of offer you a new opportunity. Jupiter's in your career sector. There's trust your intuition with it. Someone could come in, that could be a gift or some kind of offering or opportunity that comes your way that really is worth taking. It's worth kind of acting fast to say yes to it.
Yeah, put your short story in for the prize, Gemini.
Yeah.
Do get your book published, get your words out there.
Yeah.
And you will win. This is a winning thing with Jupiter up there. It's exciting. I mean, I think that one of the things about this year, which is so odd, is we have this sort of sludgy start, from January, and then it actually becomes this very exciting year, because partly because of the action of Mars with Jupiter later on, as they're working together a lot of the time. So it's not just Jupiter and Pisces, but then Mars comes in and just makes the whole thing bubble up more. You start to get that feeling of real excitement and real possibility right now from this. Yes, really from this full moon, but even from the new moon on the 4th, there's a sudden turn when we turn into the year and things start to like wake up. It's like this part of the country anyway, it's just when you start to see the crocuses start coming out, in that very early February, the purple and yellow start to come out. Although this year is so weird, it'll probably be, tulips or something.
Well, who knows? But yeah, Jupiter it is hope, isn't it? And it's faith as well. And this is the first, that Jupiter Uranus on February the 18th is the first of 3 major aspects involving Jupiter. They come thick and fast, actually, once they start. February, April, May, we get 3 major aspects with Jupiter. So, there's energy to be harnessed there. There is, see where you can expand your life as well on that. See what new experiences come your way. I like that Jupiter Uranus a lot.
And it's for Virgos, fantastic, interesting people coming into your life. Good for Sagittarians.
Yeah.
This may be some kind of opportunity with housing. Actually, it sounds really boring, but it may just be your family expanding. It's great for Cancerians and really creative. There are ways, the earth signs and the water signs in particular benefit from this.
Yeah, they do. So it's a lovely way to end the month, actually, isn't it, on that note?
Yeah, definitely.
That will take us into Pisces season next month. So it's quite a month, isn't it, really? It's a sort of, be ready for anything. I think the energy will rise.
Yeah.
It's going to be quite a lot of clamor and noise along the way.
Yeah.
That's how it feels to me.
Yeah, and I would say muddle.
Yeah.
Well. It's a muddle.
It's a muddle.
January. And there's some slightly unpleasant aspects to it as well. Pluto we're talking about.
Yeah. But those turning points do come, the turning points do come. So try and take advantage of where they are in your horoscope, particularly at the beginning of February. I mean, the key one really is Mercury direct. If you've been holding off on something, that's the time to act and make a decision.
And all the stuff on that day. And also, the other thing is I feel that there's a sort of element of coercion in that last week of January. So don't be coerced into stuff.
Yeah, I agree. Because it may be that someone's motives aren't pure.
Yeah.
There's hidden motives. Other people have hidden motives. So kind of stand your ground and stand firm.
Yeah.
Mercury brings the truth to light or gives you more information. That is the definite turning point in the month.
Yeah. Don't be bounced into making decisions. Yeah.
Good. So I think we've kind of cracked through and done pretty decent job of the month, Christine. She says.
Well, good. I'm glad you think so. I think a great job of the month. I'm thoroughly, I'm still feeling confused with the Venus Mercury retrograde, but I know that I'm going to have clarity by the end of February.
Yeah.
Okay, see you next month.
See you then. Take care. Bye.